as you can see, I'm back on my tier list shit. This week I am going to be dropping a couple videos. This is going to be the one that's focused on movies and all of the films that my partner and I watched through. Well, I'd say all of October, but actually from mid-September through October. So the whole of spooky season. This is our tier ranking, or my tier ranking, of everything we watched for what is known as Hooptober. If you don't know what Hooptober is, it's this scavenger hunt for films that is on Letterboxd. If you're on that app, it's a great app. If you're not on it, I really recommend it to you. It's like my favorite social media app at all in total. But this one guy, Cinemonster, this one member, his sobriquet is Cinemonster, he creates this list every year of particular categories of movies, and you have to find 31 movies, and they each have to fit into like these different categories. There has to be like a German movie, 3 movies from Japan, 1 movie with Dracula, the worst sequel you've never seen before, stuff like that. And yeah, we've done this for the last couple years. It's always been great fun. We see things we've never seen before. And this year, I think this is our 4th year doing it. It's us and our best friends and some other people we know all kind of get together and kind of share our lists. And it's a lot of fun. Anyway, I'm going to try and keep track of all of the categories as best I can, though to be honest with you, some of them kind of cross-pollinate, and I end up losing like, oh, is this a 90s movie or is it a movie that's from Canada? You know, that kind of thing. But I'll do my best, and we'll talk about some of these flicks. Let's start with the actual namesake of the overall scavenger hunt of Hooptober, which is, of course, Tobe Hooper. And this year, we, of course, watched the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I feel like there's not that many options when it comes to Hooper that you actually want to watch. Late period Tobe Hooper's not that interesting. And we very recently watched some of his more interesting, like, mid-'80s canon films. So we're like, let's go back to the beginning. And we watched the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is a movie that I actually didn't like. Like I liked, but like I wasn't in love with it. I always felt it was like a touch overrated. But this year, I don't know, something really worked and it clicked with me, and I loved its little weird eccentricities and how it just feels like this perfect sort of 70s drive-in movie theater experience. I don't know, man. It created modern horror, and suddenly I'm enthralled with it. That and Black Christmas all at the same time, unbelievable. So, yeah, old Leatherface and the Sawyer family, they're going to be in the masterpiece tier. And where else really should they be? Okay, now another category was 5 zombie films. So I'm going to try to pick them off one by one as I find them in this list. Number 1, let's talk about Zack Snyder's 2004 remake of Dawn of the Dead. This is a movie I saw when I was 21 years old the first time. Saw it on my birthday with a couple friends of mine, people I've lost touch with over the years. But it was a really good time at the time. And now, of course, you know, Snyder is kind of a cultural hot point, match point. But anyway, this is my first time revisiting it sometime, and you know, it's okay. Like, it has some cool little bits and pieces. I think Michael Kelly's character is a highlight, and it's kind of fun to see Sarah Polley in like a big sort of blockbustery thing, which is unusual for her now. But honestly, it's no better than C tier. It's just an okay movie, and in no way stands up to the Romero original. Another zombie film, Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Now, this movie I saw for the very first time when I was about 8. It's one of these films that I rented over and over and over again. And I have to tell you, having watched it for the first time since then, I totally see why. I think the original Return of the Living Dead is one of like the few zombie movies I can still kind of return to over and over again. I think it's like a punk rock masterpiece. But this one, you know, it's more like an Amblin version of this franchise that eventually, you know, became a longer franchise, strangely. But I still find some appeal to it. Like, I like Tom Matthews and James Caan returning and basically playing the same characters again. I like that it's shot by Robert Elswit, who would eventually go on to make films with Paul Thomas Anderson, which is such a weird thing, and we'll be talking about that again in a second. But you can totally see it. And I really, really love that old Bobby from Twin Peaks is in it too, who is like a real draw here in my household. I'm gonna give it C tier. I'm actually gonna rank it above the Snyder Dawn of the Dead. Some people will say that that's heresy, but I don't care because this is my list, and I had fun watching it at the time. Next zombie film, we're gonna talk about Train to Busan. I know this is a good movie. I loved it the first time I saw it. I hadn't seen it since then, and I think I saw it for the first time maybe like 5 years ago. Uh, it just like not every movie has holds up to like multiple rewatches, and I think this is one of those movies that you see it once, it did the job good enough, but after that, it kind of just the thrill's gone. But I'm still going to stick it in B tier because I know it's good. I know it is. It's better than those other two zombie movies, and it really should at least be elevated above them. But it would have been an A tier previously, for sure. What's the last one? Or two more zombie movies. Holy moly. Way too many zombie movies. Where in the world did it go? Oh, Wreck. There we go. I had not seen this before, and I'd been wanting to, and I have to tell you, I was very disappointed in it. Matter of fact, I kind of hated it. And not because it's, iffy whether it's a zombie movie or not, but I kind of felt like I was watching someone filming a haunted house. Like that's what it felt like to me. It felt very poorly staged. I felt like the scares were really lame, and I think this franchise is heavily overrated. I don't think it's quite garbage tier because I think it's got a little something of interest, but that's going into D, and I know that's going to lose me some fans here. But I didn't dig it. And the last zombie movie, good lord, what was the last zombie movie? Oh, Planet Terror. You know what? This is fun. I ended up liking this a little more than I remembered. I liked it. The first time I saw Planet Terror was in the Grindhouse double feature when it came out that weekend. Of course, I think that Planet Terror and Death Proof together make a stronger film along with all the trailers and stuff. Like it's all just part of the experience. And to me, it's all one thing. But if you do break it up and you sit down with it, it's kind of fun. It's a good movie, and I think it might be the last good Robert Rodriguez movie, probably. Though I'm sure some Alita Battle Angel stands will have my head for that. I don't think I'll rank it above Train to Busan. It won't go above B tier, but man, I did have a better time with it. You know what? I'm gonna do it. The heck with it. I'm gonna put Planet Terror above Train to Busan, and we're just gonna live with that for now. Okay, after zombie movies, which I'm so glad to be rid of, because boy, there's a thing I can't stand talking about anymore, zombie movies. We have three cult or conspiracy films. All right, we'll start with The Devil's Advocate. Man, this was fun. This was so fun. Al Pacino plays the guy who owns a law firm who hires Keanu Reeves. You know the story. Oh, and guess what? Based on the title, he might be the devil. It was a really cool time, and I really dug it. I don't think. Do I think it's better than Planet Terror? Maybe. I will say it's the rare movie that like it would be very rare today. Like they don't really make these kinds of like adult genre leaning things anymore. The focus is really on sort of like PG family friendly activities, and this is really more of an adult R-rated genre bender. It reminds me kind of like a Vertigo comic of the kind that like a Stuart Moore would have edited. But I they just don't make them like this anymore. That's for sure. I'm gonna put it above Planet Terror. I think it's a better movie, and I won't quite put it in A tier because I just don't think it's that good. But I think it's good enough that you check it out. Okay, next cult or conspiracy film. I think that is gonna be Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Which let me tell you guys, if you've never seen this, holy smokes! It is outstanding. And I'm talking about the 1970s remake of the 50s version with Donald Sutherland and Jeff Goldblum and Leonard Nimoy. This is like such an incredible film, and the kind of movie that I think has a lot to say about sort of the thought I don't even know how to say it. Like sort of how people's brains are literally being melted by the algorithm and all this kind of stuff. Like to me, it has a lot of parallels between the two, between today and then. And it's just an excellent movie. I think it's better than Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think it's probably the best movie in this entire list. And if you haven't seen it yet, please do, because it is indeed a masterpiece. They live, man, I think this movie is like fun, but I think it has like kind of a lame third act. It's one of my least favorite John Carpenter movies. Really iconic design, cool sort of overall vibe with the whole obey stuff and the sunglasses. I think Roddy Piper, even though he's like not a very good actor, it's still fun to have on screen this beefcake of a guy who is spouting off one-liners that sometimes he can pull off, sometimes he can't. And Keith David's a lot of fun to see him play off of. And it's got a cool ending, I think, cool dark ending specifically, but I'm not sure that it's really adds up. I always like want to love it more than I really do. Yeah, I think for now it's gonna be back into the B tier at best. Actually, you know what? Might even be C tier, but I'm not. I'm gonna try not to regret this. So back into the B tier for now. Okay, so the next category is one film from a black director with a black lead. For me, that was Get Out. Again, kind of like Training to Busan, I know this is an excellent film, deserved to win its Best Original Screenplay Oscar. But, once you know it, you kind of feel like diminishing returns have really set in, and it's hard to sort of return to. I had a better time watching it, especially in the second half when things kind of locked in, but I'm going to put it. Nah, it's okay. I'll put it in A tier because it's still good. I'm not going to let some weird viewing experience ruin it. A tier, not quite masterpiece though, but still, I think, especially if you haven't seen it before, I think it's a really, really fun movie. But if you have, maybe you'll still find something to enjoy. I do think the second half's stronger than the first, but like a low A tier. Hey, one film from a Mexican or Central American director for me, that was Frankenstein. The new Guillermo del Toro movie, which you guys, if you've seen my short, you've already heard me talk about it. I don't think this movie is actually that good. I think it's got a really lame ending, and the more I think about it, the more it's really bothering me. So I'm going to throw it in a C tier for now, above Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Lush design, some really interesting performances, but I actually think the movie is starting to sour with me the more I think about it, and that kind of stinks. Not enough for me to change my Rotten Tomatoes review, though. Okay, one Canadian film for that. This was Clear Cut. This movie's really interesting, and it's definitely A tier. I don't think it's gonna be above Get Out for me. Well, maybe it would actually. It's really cool though. It's a whole movie about like the deforestation in the First Nations up in Canada, and how this one member of a tribe basically takes and kidnaps the guy that's running the deforestation lumber company, along with a guy who is like their attorney, or the attorney for the tribe. And it's a really fascinating psychological journey. It's funny. It's almost not even horror. It's really more like a thriller. But that line between thriller and horror is so it's so transparent sometimes, and there is just a little bit of magical realism in this thing. So yeah, it just makes the cut for me for folk horror. It's in the folk horror box set for Severin. I don't know why, except for just like if you squint, I guess. But I'm gonna put it in A tier because I really dug it. Hey, one former Russian state film for me. This was Sputnik, a film that came out a few years ago during the pandemic. Basically about an astronaut who in the 80s who returns and brings something back with him. You can imagine what happens. I thought this movie sucked ass. I was so bored, and it really doesn't add up to anything interesting at all. Garbage tier. Don't even worry about it. Okay, the most popular film from the 1940s that I haven't seen and can access. That was Cat People, which I thought was pretty good for a bit, and then kind of falls apart. I do struggle, admittedly, with 1940s and 50s horror. I think it's just a little slower, a little stagier, and my brain never quite adjusts the right way for it. But I did dig this one for a good long while. I'm going to probably place it I'm gonna say I don't know. It's kind of B tier, C tier though. To be honest, I'm probably gonna call it like upper C tier for now. But it's a tweener. Okay, so two post-apocalyptic horror films. The first is Annihilation, the Alex Garland movie. I saw this in the theater, and it was a horrible theater experience because someone was just talking the whole time. You know, people are just getting worse and worse in theaters. It's kind of unreal, really. But I thought this movie was not very good upon this rewatch when I finally had a chance to sit down and watch it and concentrate on it. I don't know. Like, it starts off kind of okay, but I think the characters are dull. Very little, like, actually feels like it happens for like first half of the movie, and then the second half it sort of adds up to there's kind of an okay twist. There's some cool 2001 sort of visuals, but I don't know. I just don't think Alex Garland is that good a director, to be honest. And I'm gonna put this in the D tier. I just didn't dig it, but it's better than Wreck at least. Yeah, what do you know? Anyway, and then after that, on the other post-apocalyptic movie, I think it was The Stand. Yeah. So this is like not really a movie. This is a mini series. But we decided to like really kind of just jump right in, and this one definitely doubled as like post-apocalyptic as well as a adapted from a novel. You're going to see quite a few King things here for that, to be honest with you, just because we lack imagination, I guess. Or, we're just big King heads. But I don't like The Stand. Everyone knows that. If you see my video about the Stand anthology, you know I don't like The Stand, and you've seen people take me to task for that. I don't care. I think it sucks. And I think the ending is garbage. It's one of the worst things King's ever written. That ending is embarrassing, and it's even worse in this miniseries, which he wrote. He didn't even take the time to improve upon it. And that last episode stinks. But at least the first couple episodes are kind of fun. It's got some good actors. Gary Sinise is kind of like, it's like dropping Olivier in the middle of a bunch of TV actors, to be honest with you. But still, I'm going to put it above Wreck because I had a better time with it. As a matter of fact, I might even put it above Annihilation because I still had a better time watching The Stand than I did Annihilation. But boy, I think that ending is so inexcusable, and it just kind of ruins the whole thing. So that's where The Stand goes. Okay, one film with dreams or a dream as part of the plot. That was Phantasm. We cheated a little bit. We had a different thing in mind at one point, but we decided we wanted to watch something good. So Phantasm, masterpiece, of course. I have a whole video about it. Why wouldn't I think it's a masterpiece? But is it better than either of these movies? I think it's better than Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I don't think it's better than Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Let's be real. One, The Animals Are Pissed at Us film. In that case, that is Cujo, which also is another novel-based film. So that's another subject that we'll broach here. I think this movie's like all right. It starts off a little rough, I think, especially when you're dealing with all this like subplot about a breakfast cereal and and like some defects with that, and it's just like, wow, I can't believe they're focusing on this in this movie. But once poor Cujo gets his rabies and the mother and son are stuck in the car, that it becomes a much more intense film. And I think the performance from the dog is actually really, really impressive. And they make him look pretty nasty. As far as I'm concerned, he's beating the allegations. What's funny about Cujo is, to me, it kind of comes on the heels of a string of really great King adaptations like Carrie, The Shining, and, if you like Salem's Lot, the Tobe Hooper version, then sure. But it comes on the heels of those. You got the Carpenter Christine, that's kind of like right around the same time. And then the Dead Zone with Cronenberg. And Cujo just kind of like sits in the middle of like a big lump. And to me, I think it's like the first sort of endemic version of like what a typical King adaptation starts to look like, especially as we start to get into these Mick Garris led things in the 90s. See The Stand, again, poorly directed. But I think it's better than those just because the source material is more interesting and it kind of gives like for a better general setup. I don't know, I'm rambling. I think Cujo is better than the Snyder Dawn of the Dead, but is it better than like Return of the Living Dead Part 2? I kind of don't think so. They're pretty on par though, so I'm going to stick it right there in the C tier. Okay, one silent film. Okay, I have to be totally honest with you guys. We watched this movie, The Lodger, which is one of the early Alfred Hitchcock movies, and Man, I don't like silent movies whatsoever. I think they're so dull and so boring. I won't stick it in garbage tier because I would make me look like a fool. But I'm just gonna kind of throw it into the D tier because I don't dig this stuff, and we could barely get through the thing. And if you're like me and you don't like silent movies, you're probably gonna feel the same way I do. So I'm gonna stick it right here, right behind Wreck. Sorry, Alfred. You've made many masterpieces that I love. Okay, 4 based on novels. We've kind of covered that already pretty extensively, but I've got 2 others here that I'll drop in. Number 1 is It, the miniseries, another miniseries. This is the Tim Curry one. We all know it. We all love it. And I have to tell you, it really holds up. Holds up a heck of a lot better than the movies with Bill Skarsgård, if you ask me. I don't know that I'll stick it in A tier, though, because it's kind of still a little sort of junky at times, and I think you can only do the like slow down scares when it kind of zooms in on Pennywise's face so often. But I think it's upper B tier. I would probably put it right around Devil's Advocate. Because I really thought it was a good time, and I think it's unlike the movies that came out recently. I think the screenwriter actually liked the books, which is helpful. And if you've seen how bad Welcome to Derry is, if you've watched any of the episodes or the one episode that's out as of this point, no way. So this is all the live action it I need at this point, and I'm just gonna stick it. What the heck? I'm gonna stick it upper B for now. Has more of an impact on me than Devil's Advocate anyway. Okay, next up we've got one Ernesto Gastaldi written film, and that is this. I think it's called. What is this thing called again? I can't read it on the thing. It's called Death Walks at Midnight. Yeah, it's all cut off. I actually thought this was kind of fun. It ends really badly, and I think it has one too many twists, and it's kind of hard to keep track of. But I don't really dig Italian giallos. I think they're kind of boring, and a lot of times, if they like kind of veer towards the supernatural, they don't even make a lot of sense. And depending on what filmmaker you're looking at, I might have more tolerance, especially if we're talking about Argento or anybody like that. But I don't know. I'm gonna put this kind of in like I'm gonna put this above Cat People, I think, in the upper C tier. No, you know what? I'm gonna do like upper B tier. I thought it was actually pretty all right, so that's where that's gonna be. I might change my mind later because of sort of like I feel like the last like third of it's a lot weaker, but still, I had fun while I was watching it. All right, one film from 1932, which is in my case, Freaks. Freaks is awesome. Had not seen this before. This is the Todd Browning movie that he made right after Dracula, I think, where he filmed a number of circus performers. It's a whole story. It's very easy comics in its way, but a lot of people also kind of feel like it's more like a standard Sunday funnies kind of thing. The way it's like structured, each scene is kind of like its own little gag strip, but it also ends like in a really dark way, and has really memorable images. I think it's. Is it a masterpiece? I don't know. It's awfully close. You know what? I think I regret if I don't put it there. Freaks is going to the masterpiece. Hey, if you've never seen Freaks before, check it out. Really, really excellent. Okay. For some reason, he put The Wizard of Oz in the list. Like there was no category except watch The Wizard of Oz. I guess because it was David Lynch's favorite movie or one of his favorite movies. He was specifically quoted as saying, "The day doesn't go by that I don't think about The Wizard of Oz." So here we are, watching The Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz is a good film. I actually don't like it very much. I really like. I've been in The Wizard of Oz as a play. I watched it quite a bit as a kid. I was obsessed with Return to Oz, and nowadays the idea of watching The Wizard of Oz makes my skin crawl. I hate the Wicked movies. It's just a me thing. But I will, out of respect, I will stick it right in the middle of the B tier because it is what it is. I can't deny it, but I don't have to like it either. Okay, and then I've got a couple of extras here that kind of touch on a few different things, like the big sort of umbrella categories that you had to pick. Also, six countries other than the Italy or the United States, as well as 9 decades. Tom, UK movie. And kind of a precursor to slashers in a way. Michael Powell, former member of the Archers, Powell and Pressburger. Never like loved any of their movies, to be totally honest with you, but I thought this was enjoyable while I was watching it. And I think it's got like a pretty good ending. The camera might stand for something else. It might stand for his manhood. And it's one of these things where it does a lot of the POV shooting from the camera as he kind of chases his victims. It's very, very similar to where things like Black Christmas and Halloween would eventually go, along with like sort of the whole giallo movement. And I'm gonna stick it above Death Walks at Midnight, but I think I had less fun with it than like They Live. No, yeah, I think so. I think I'm gonna go with it there. Okay, let's see. How about Skin I Live In? That's for Spain. Great movie. Great movie. If you haven't seen it before, really fun, twisty film. I think is absolutely one of Almodovar's better films, especially later period Almodovar, who I think can be hit or miss. This is like a really cool one, and it reminds me a lot of like, if you're a Love and Rockets reader, kind of reminds me of like something Gilbert Hernandez might do in like his whole Palomar side of that comic book. If I ever see him again, I might ask him if he's ever seen this movie. I bet he has. I really bet he has. I'm going to stick it in the A tier, though, and I'm going to stick it above Clear Cut because it is great. Not quite a masterpiece, but really, really great and highly recommended. All right, Impedagore, Indonesian film. I dug this. I really dug this up until it had one reveal too many, and I think it over-explained itself. And man, I was really upset because it was really close to being awesome. But I'm going to stick it in the B tier because it's really good, like upper B tier, because it's really good Indonesian folk horror. Highly recommended if you just want to check out a Joko Anwar film, which I've never done before, and I think it is for sure, or Joko Anwar, excuse me, and I think it is totally worth your time, especially if you're trying to expand your horizons on the horror side of things. Okay, let's talk about One Missed Call, a Japanese horror film from Takashi Miike. I've never seen a Takashi Miike film. I don't know why. It's just the way things have kind of turned out for me. So I have not seen Audition. I haven't seen any of his other movies. I did not think this was very good at all. I don't think it's quite garbage, but it's really close. I'm going to stick it like probably underneath. I must stick it underneath Wreck even. Like at least Wreck I sort of like was it. I'm gonna stick it above Wreck. Yeah, I'm gonna stick it there. They're like the same. It doesn't really matter. But I thought this was bad, and I was kind of surprised at how bad it was. Very boring J horror. Some J horror can be good. That J horror is not good. Okay. Let's talk about Lake Mungo. That's an Australian film, so that fulfills the Australian requirement. I had higher hopes for this. Like the idea of a sort of faux documentary about a girl vanishing and how it sort of impacts this family and the people that surround them. But, I find that like the documentary approach sort of curtailed some of the horror for some reason. I don't know. It just kind of was boring and it didn't really like add up to much for me. And I was really bummed because my partner and I were like, this sounds really cool and all our friends dig it. But not us. I felt like its whole approach undermined everything in terms of like everything was being told to you, rather than being shown. And while there's some eerie imagery, that kind of telling is pretty much killer for horror. You cannot tell that much and still sort of maintain a sense of suspense. I mean, the people that you are worried about, they're alive because they're giving interviews to the documentarian. So whatever. It's a bummer. I didn't like it. I'm gonna throw it underneath Cujo, I think. Yeah. Sorry. Exuma, South Korea. This movie rocks. It's so good. And I don't know how to explain this, but I feel like the best way I can do it is to say, like, if you are familiar with Hellblazer comic books, this is kind of like a South Korean version of that. like the four people who are the leads of this, they are all experts in their field. Like one guy's like a geomancer, and one person is sort of this, magician witch lady, and another guy is like, her assistant, and another person is like this guy who's like, he works with like funeral parlors and is, big on, he has like all these like business connections and stuff. Everybody's like a highly sought after professional, and these guys are like these sort of centralized heroes who are going against a ancient evil. It's cool. It's so awesome, and it's a little long, but man, I don't care. I was loving every minute of it. It's not quite a masterpiece because the length, I think, tags it just a touch. But man, I thought it was probably the best of the A tiers that we saw, and I'm gonna drop it there. Yeah, all right, in the upper A tier for sure. If there's any movie I can recommend that you haven't seen, if you have seen Invasion of the Bystanders, you have seen Phantasm, and you of course seen anything else in the masterpiece tier, please seek out Eczema. It would have made my top 10 last year if I'd seen it in time, but I didn't see it in time. Habits. This was a 90s movie, so that's that one of the other decades. I'm a big Larry Fessenden fan, and someday I'm going to do a full-on video about Larry and his filmography as I have a chance to watch a little bit more that I haven't seen yet. But I've seen all of his sort of universal monster type movies, and this was the first one he did, which is about vampirism, but using it as a stand-in for addiction and toxic relationships. And I think it's like his one of his rougher movies because it's early, and he's kind of the only like truly good actor involved, and everyone else is kind of, performances are a little off key, but still, I think it is a really cool film, and it kind of comes at a time when there were a lot of these sort of New York City based vampire films like this. There was The Addiction. There was the really underseen film that's on Vinegar Syndrome now, I think called Night Owl with John Leguizamo. I definitely think this is the best of those three, probably, though I haven't seen The Addiction in a very long time, so I might change my mind about that. But I think this is a really enjoyable movie, and I would probably slot it. I'm going to slot it above Devil's Advocate and just below it, I think. Yeah, I think so. That feels right. But check it out. Well worth it, especially if you want to kind of watch somebody who actually is nailing down the classic monster template, but tying it to these indie drama style stories, which, I mean, nobody's doing that. Only Larry's doing that, and I think Larry is one of our most inventive horror filmmakers. I'm excited to talk about him more in the future. Okay, Trick or Treat. Boy, oh boy, this was the extra credit movie that we decided to watch, and I love this movie so much. But I know it's also kind of a big piece of junk. I came out in '86. Basically, the idea is that this kid that's bullied, he's this metalhead. He ends up getting this record of a Dead Rock Stars demo, plays it backwards, and the Dead Rock Star starts talking to him through the record. And well, you can imagine what happens when people play their records backwards, especially metal records. I think this movie is like it's like B tier, but for me, it's always going to be like 4 stars. It's one of those important movies to me. But I'm gonna probably slot it. I'm gonna slot it like right around. It's Devil's Advocate, just because I love it so much. It's like this. It's like probably the best blend of Carrie and the Nightmare on Elm Street, but in a really bloodless kind of junky way. And again, shot by Robert Elswit, just like Return of the Living Dead Part 2. We all start somewhere. Can I move Stepford Wives? I can. Yes, I can move it. Heck yeah. What a disappointment this movie turned out to be. Very boring, and I will probably put it at the upper level of the D tier. I just completely lost interest in it. All right, there it is, guys. In 36 minutes, we talked about all 32 movies we watched for Hooptober. If again, my takeaway is watch anything in the masterpiece or A tier, and then if you want if you want to dig into stuff in the B tier, Impetigore and Habit, I think, are real priorities. I think they are really worthwhile. Like little flawed gems that I can't quite in good conscience say that they're A tier movies, but I think they are worth your time as somebody if you want to look for either like more international cinema or you want to like kind of dig into indie horror, which I think Habit is a wonderful start on that side of things. But otherwise, you can't go wrong with anything on the Masterpiece side or the A tier, especially if you want to watch Exuma, Freaks, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Phantasm, or Invasion of the Body Snatchers. In the meantime, we'll catch you on the next video, which I'll probably record tomorrow. And that'll be about all the books I read through October. Oh boy, back to book content. All right, like, comment, subscribe. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.